Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another beautiful movie, starring the beautiful babe Katarina Muniro. She is a beautiful cop and a cheating wife, unsatisfied with her husband. The film is full of entertainment, so without wasting time, let's begin. In the beginning of the film, we see three cops waiting outside a criminal's house, whose name is Carlos. They are there to arrest him, but they are afraid to go inside. Two of the cops are good friends and always work together in a team. They are Frank and Paul. They finally decide to enter the house together. When they reach inside, the Carlos take one of them in gunpoint and instruct him to drive the car. He takes him near a railway station to run away in a train. Carlos tries to kill him, but he forgot the bullets. He ran away, leaving Frank behind, who was shivering with fear. Next morning, we see Frank visiting a hotel room. He goes inside the room, where a beautiful girl is waiting for him. She is Valeria. She is Paul's wife, having extramarital affair with Frank. Soon both of them get intimate in bed. Next morning, we see them talking. Valeria tells Frank that we should live together. She wants to tell Paul about the affair and leave him, but Frank says it's too fast. We should take some time and stay like this. Here Paul is waiting for Frank when their senior officer arrives. He tells them to leave for Toulon, as they need to arrest Carlos. Paul calls Frank and asks him to pack the bags. Next he calls his wife, who is also there with Frank. Frank feels bad about Paul, as he is doing this to him. So did Valeria. On the way, Frank and Paul are talking about Valeria. Frank is looking disturbed as Paul wants to make her pregnant now. During the journey, Frank thinks about the situation, how to tell Paul about their affair. As he is happy with his wife Valeria, he is practicing it in front of a toilet mirror. Paul is listening to him from behind. He got to know about the affair and becomes angry. Frank tries to calm him down, but he is not in a mood to listen to him. Paul tells Frank that this is the last case we are working together. After this, don't show your face to me. Next they go to hotel and take different rooms. Frank calls Valeria and tells him Paul came to know about the affair. She is happy that it's finally over. Soon Paul enters his room as his wife's line is busy. He knows she is talking to Frank. He grabs the phone to talk to her. After getting mad at Valeria, Paul asks Frank why he called her. Frank says just to let her know that's it. Paul breaks the cell phone so that they cannot talk to each other. Valeria is also a police officer who is on a mission too. She arrests a gangster, but she is feeling sick. Next we see Frank and Paul going for their investigation, where Paul is listening to a sad song related to cheating wives. They finally reach prison to meet Frank's uncle, who is inside jail. Here Valeria is talking to her fellow cop. She is asking him if she is doing a mistake leaving Paul. He tells her Paul is a great guy, but you don't love him anymore. Here Paul talks to Valeria while Frank is investigating his uncle. Paul tells Frank that he is forgiving Valeria, as he wants to live with her always. He tells Frank that he is just a bad memory for Valeria. They reach their destination to find Viking, the man who can lead them to Carlos. Frank asks the hotel receptionist about Viking. He tells him the address. He sees a telephone and calls Valeria, but she is busy. He leaves a message on answering machine, saying I was a stain and mistake for you, go live with your husband now. He is angry as Paul told him a pack of lies, which she never said about Frank. As he gets out of the hotel, he sees Viking walking on the road. He starts following him on his car. He leads them to a place where Carlos is living at present. Both of them enters the building and reaches the door of Carlos, but Paul starts fighting with Frank again, asking him if he and Valeria did it on hotels like this. He sees both of them outside his door. Carlos kills Viking and jumps off the window to run away. Next we see a senior officer shouting at Paul. He tells him to go back as they can handle Carlos alone. Here Frank found a cell phone. He is trying to call Valeria from a toilet. Valeria tells him that she will call Paul at night, and she will handle everything now. Paul comes and calls Frank out of toilet. He tells him we should leave for Paris now, as we are fired. Frank tells Paul that you should go back alone, as you messed up this time. He will stay here and catch Carlos alone. Paul also decides to stay with him until they catch Carlos. They reach the dock where Carlos is going to make a deal. He is armed with a gunman and dealing on drugs. Here Valeria is watching Paul's photographs and feeling guilty about her doings. Paul and Frank are tracking Carlos' movements from beach, and finally having good conversation about their friendship memories. They are keeping watch day and night for the deal, sleeping one by one inside the car. When Paul goes to sleep, Frank watches the cruise. Meanwhile, Valeria arrives on the spot. She meets Frank and tells him that she is pregnant with his child. She is there to tell everything to Paul, but Frank gives an excuse and go away for some time, leaving them alone. Here Valeria tells Paul that she is pregnant. Before she can tell anything more, Paul believes he is the father and hug her. She decides to keep quiet for now. Frank reaches his uncle's shop and realizes he actually runs an escort service. He knows that Carlos will call him for girls. He tells his uncle to inform him if Carlos calls for girls. Frank comes back and finds Valeria relaxing on the beach, while Paul is enjoying the sea waves. Valeria tells him she could not talk to Paul, as he is very happy. Frank wanted her to tell him everything. Both argues for some time. Then Frank tells her, "We should tell him everything after catching Carlos." She agrees. Next we see Frank and Paul talking. Paul asks him out of millions of girls, "Why you picked up mine?" He says Valeria started all this and I could not resist. Now they are waiting for the deal to happen, but seems like it is taking too long. Meanwhile, a Brazilian man is playing football in the beach. He is Carlos' man and all of them are suspecting him to be Carlos' man. As he leaves the beach, Frank starts following him. Soon he enters a shop and runs away from back door. Frank returns back to the beach and tells them they are disappointed because of bad luck. Paul decides they should go back to Paris now. As they are getting ready to go back, Frank receives a call. Frank's uncle tells him the address. As he booked a hooker just now, all of them gets to the location and waits for the girl to come. Here Valeria is getting ready, as she has a plan. She is going to replace the hooker girl and go to Carlos. Soon the girl arrives. They follow her and take her into custody. Valeria is changing cloths with her so that she can replace her. She connects her call with Paul's phone so that they can hear everything. They are waiting outside and Valeria finally goes to his room. Carlos says, "I booked a black girl. I don't like white girls because they are cold." Here Valeria is trying to attract him with her charms. He takes her inside and tells the Brazilian man to leave. He goes out and gets captured by both of them. Carlos takes her inside the bedroom. She is taking too much time to undress and tease him. Carlos is in a hurry. He wants to cut off the talks, but she is taking time to think about her next move. She secretly moves her hand behind and takes out the gun. She calls them right away. She is taking him to the door, but soon he captures her and take her on gunpoint. He makes Paul and Frank to put down their guns and get inside. He captures them with the old couple and take Valeria with him. He finds his man in the elevator. Here the old man tells Frank that the duplicate key is in the drawer. They run to stop Carlos. During the stairs, Paul falls down and gets injured. He tells Frank to carry on. Here Valeria is driving the car on gunpoint. She knowingly accelerates and hit the car in front, which makes Carlos injured. She somehow gets out and Frank saves her. Frank goes to find Carlos alone, but as usual he takes him in gunpoint. Here Paul goes to the parking through lift and shoots Carlos from far away. As he saved his life again, Frank is hesitant to tell him everything. Here he talks to Valeria. She tells him that we should go together and tell him. Paul tells them he is happy as he is going to be a father. As he is injured, they could not tell him that they decided to live with each other. After he leaves for hospital, Valeria and Frank decides they will tell him everything after he comes back. After 6 months we see Valeria and Frank waiting for Paul. He comes out of the hospital. Valeria asks Frank to tell now. He says he is not fully out yet. Let him come to the house first. Both of them are trying to tell him, but cannot do it. They decides to go for dinner. As they are walking together, Frank is thinking that he will tell him after the child is born, or maybe during his baptism. Movie ends here on a happy note. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment and share the video. Subscribe the channel if you wish. We will see you soon with another mind-blowing movie. Take care.